Ow. In 1953, author and former Naval Intelligence Officer Ian Fleming would release his first book about MI6 agent 007. His name? Bond. James Bond. And to celebrate Bond's 60th anniversary, we're pitting his N64 classic Goldeneye to its 2011 reimagining. This week, on Head to Head. In 1995, after a 6-year hiatus due to legal issues, James Bond would return to the silver screen in Goldeneye, this time being led by Irish-born Pierce Brosnan. With the marketing craze reaching its peak, Eon Productions handed over the Bond video game rights to, of all companies, Nintendo. Really? The Japanese-based company wouldn't have been a lot of people's picks to get the rights, but Nintendo rolled with it and hand development over to their golden boys in the UK, Rareware. I mean, Bond was British, Rare was British. It seemed like a perfect fit. However, due to movie tie-in games having the reputation of low quality, the game wasn't exactly Rare's top priority. They were working on some other things at the time. Goldeneye was handed to Martin Hollis, who led a team of 8 people to work on the game. 8 people who had never worked on a game before in their lives. Original plans were to make it a 2.5D platformer like Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. However, it was then decided that they would make a 3D shooter for the upcoming Ultra 64. Originally they were planning to do it as a rail shooter under the influence of Sega's Virtua Cop, but then they decided to take the biggest risk ever. Hollis and his team decided to make a full 3D first-person shooter. In 1995, the concept of a full 3D shooter on consoles was unheard of. Sure, games like Wolfenstein and Doom had been on consoles, but the D-pad didn't allow the same type of movement the PC's mouse and keyboard enjoyed. However, the N64 had an analog joystick, the first of its kind since the Atari 5200. And to add to the craziness, Hollis had another idea. Instead of just shooting till someone died, what if shooting in a certain area caused more damage? What if a headshot would deal more damage than a body shot? This sort of concept was unheard of as well in 1997, and when the game was nearing completion, in a complete afterthought, the programmers added in 4-player, split-screen multiplayer. Okay, cool, whatever. The game took 2 years to make. By the time it was released in 1997, the next Bond movie, Tomorrow Never Dies, was on the way out. And despite the rave reviews it got, the game in its first month didn't sell well. But they had kept selling, and selling, and selling, and selling, and selling, and selling, and selling, until it became the 3rd highest selling N64 title of all time, behind Super Mario and Mario Kart 64. It was a last-minute addition of multiplayer that kept the game chugging in the charts for months to come, until it sold over 8 million copies. For most people, the N64 version of Goldeneye is met with warmth and nostalgia. Not me, however, as I never owned an N64 until after the console had been discontinued. So I'm warning you now, I don't have rose-tinted glasses on. For years after the release, fans were clamoring for a remake or re-release of Goldeneye in some fashion. This would be a problem, as even though Rare was bought by Microsoft back in 2001, the Bond license was now in the hands of EA. An HD version was planned for the Xbox Live Arcade back in 2008, but fell apart when Microsoft and Nintendo couldn't come to financial agreements. However, in 2006 the Bond license went to Activision, and Nintendo, wanting to remind the core audience that they still love them, set out to make a reimagining of Goldeneye for the Wii. This time, however, featuring Daniel Craig instead of Brosnan. This is probably due to a clause in the Bond license, as when the original Goldeneye was being developed, the crew actually made Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton for the game as well, but was removed at the last minute for unknown reasons. No Lazenby though, and as an Australian, I find that offensive. I think. So nothing be going all History Channel on you. Let's pit these two games together. Now, unlike last time, we'll only be going with 3 categories. The 3 categories will be controls, graphics, and multiplayer. The reason we aren't doing anything else is because other categories just felt unnecessary, like the story mode, as personally each version cancels each other out. The N64 version, while courageous in its attempt, was weighed down substantially with the limited tech, and the Wii, while having the unlimited specs compared to the original, gave us an uninspiring redone version of the story, despite being penned by one of the movie's writers. Another is gameplay. Now, while it's true both games could have you do things sneakily, like shooting out cameras and such, most of the time you just end up shooting everything anyway. So, let's begin, starting with... When the N64 controller was released, it was the most advanced controller ever developed for a person suffering a horrible mutation that caused him to grow a third arm. Nah, I'm just kidding. Look, the N64 controller was great, and it's still one of my personal favorites. Let's be honest here. When was the last time you actually used it? Let alone play Goldeneye? Because I can guarantee you that after years of being treated to using 2 thumbsticks in FPSs, reaching for these C buttons is gonna sound insane. And while it was true the console could survive a megaton blast, the same can't be said for the controller, particularly the stick. So what to do? Well, if you're a long-time viewer of this show, you may remember during my Paper Mario review last year, I bought an adapter for my Wii to allow use of an N64 controller. Well, the good folks over at RAFNet Technologies have created a cable that allows me to plug a GameCube controller into the N64. The adapter also allows me to edit the key config into anything you want. So it was nice playing the game with a much sturdier stick. Stop laughing. Over on the Wii side, however, the Wii obviously uses the Wiimote and Nunchuck, as well as the very underrated classic controller, and both versions feel very good on your hands. Yes, even the Wiimote. It isn't Metroid Prime good, but then it isn't really fair to compare shooters to the king in my mind. Looking back, the N64 controller worked great, but since then our attitude and style of gaming have changed drastically. So, I award the first point to Wii. When it comes to graphics, the Wii version wasn't anything to be amazed at, and the N64's graphics have aged as well as, well, any game from the 5th generation. Look, I'm gonna be honest here. Most of the games from that generation, while great games in themselves, look absolutely terrible by today's standards. Seriously, pop in an N64, PlayStation, or even Sega Saturn title on your 32-inch LCD TV, and prepare to cringe. But to be fair, at least the Rare guys were trying. When it came to the Wii, all Activision were doing was going, "Oh my god, they're doing the dab again! Ah!" The Wii was as powerful as an original Xbox, and games on that system still look good by today's standards. But most of the third-party stuff on the Wii just looks uninspiring. Even more so on the 360 version. There, it feels like a true Call of Duty clone. So with that, I award graphics to the N64. And here we are, 1-1, which means the big one. Oh boy, here it is. The multiplayer of GoldenEye N64 is, legendary. In the few instances where I did play at a friend's place, it was fast-paced and easy to pick up. The amount of modes, characters, and options is staggering. And unlike now, if someone called you a slur, you could just deck them and choke them out with the N64 cable. But what about now? It's hard enough trying to get 3 friends over nowadays, and when you do and the booze has run out, you usually end up playing something more recent. Look, back then, 4-player multiplayer was enough, but now we have the ability to play with 8 or even more online. So unless you've been able to hack an N64 and jam a LAN cable into it, that copy of Goldeneye is going to keep collecting dust. On the Wii side, however, the multiplayer is just as fun as it is on the N64. And with a lack of game chat, it makes it so much better. The problem is, it's a Wii online multiplayer game that isn't Mario Kart. So unless you're going for the standard deathmatch, no one's really around. This is hard. You have one that was revolutionary for its time, but isn't as easy to enjoy now. And another one that's fun and easily accessible, but no one wants to join. I don't know what to do. Are there any other choices? What did you just see? That was Goldeneye Source, a from the ground up remastering of GoldenEye's multiplayer done with Valve's Source engine. And I must say, these guys have captured the intensity and magic from those pizza-filled multiplayer nights perfectly. And if no one's around, you can play with bots and they work just as fine. And the best thing of all, it's absolutely free. This is the most accessible version out there, so you know what? Point to source. Oh, fuck! Fuck me! Oh, fuck! Damn it! Damn it all that! Fuck! Ah, damn it! Now what do I do? Cover art. N64 version wins. Yeah, I know. Let's be clear. Goldeneye was a revolutionary game with its controls, multiplayer, and enemy AI that would pave the way for the future of FPSs on consoles. But let's make this clear. Bond didn't do that. Rare did. To put it simply, Rare could have used this engine to make any shooter, and it would have been a success. They proved that when they released their own game with the engine called Perfect Dark. Although I will always believe that Miyamoto should have walked in and suggested instead of playing as a woman called Joanna Dark, you should have played as a woman called Samus Aran. Yeah, got that in your head now, don't I? In late 98, 5 of the developers behind Goldeneye would leave Rare to form Free Radical Design and start working on a new game called Time Splitters. This game would be considered a true sequel to Rare's FPS classics. The company was bought by Crytek in 2009 to form Crytek UK. Look, what I'm trying to get is, while Goldeneye was a great game, it's not safe, healthy, or wise to assume that any other Bond game would be the next Goldeneye. All it came down to was luck. Look, besides Goldeneye, the majority of James Bond's games have been average to crap. In fact, 007 Legends is so bad, the Wii U version is not even available in this country. And with that, I sit back and wait for the hate mail to flow. Oh, one more thing. If anyone brings up Rogue Agent or how I didn't bring up Oddjob, I got this working again. Hey folks, thank you for watching Goldeneye Head to Head. Leave all hate mail at my new email address, enigma@unboxedtv.net. And of course, here's the Facebook, here's the Twitter, and check out the Unboxed network over at unboxedtv.net.